Ancient languages often help us see deeper meanings in Scripture. But in the case of Hebrews chapter 4 verse 13, I'm just trying to understand what I'm reading. Welcome to the Scripture Unscrolled channel, and I know that I could just pick up a simpler English Bible, but that doesn't get any views, does it? Let's take a look at my dilemma. The King James Version reads, "Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and opened unto the eyes of him with whom we have to do." This last section is what got me, with whom we have to do. I don't know what this means, so no delay, let's pick up the verse in Latin. The Vulgate tells us, "Et non est ulla creatura invisibilis in conspectu eius. Omnia autem nuda et aperta sunt oculis eius ad quem nobis sermo." This helps us quite a bit. If we translate the first little section straight into English, we get, "And there is not any creature invisible in his sight." Little debate to be had, even over the word conspectu, which means sight, view, or gaze. Moving on to the second section, we have more trouble. The wording is less clear, the meaning's more debatable, and the lack of punctuation does us no favors. Regardless, the words nuda and aperta faithfully correspond to their English counterparts, with nuda meaning nude or bare, as you might have guessed, while aperta comes from the verb aperire and means open or uncovered. The words oculis eius are similarly similar, meaning to the eyes of him. An interesting detail, but it's about to get even better. The very last section, ad quem nobis sermo, contains no verb at all, which threw me off at first. Word for word, I thought it read, "To him, to us, sermon." Now this is meaningless, and I briefly despaired, thinking the Latin wouldn't help me after all. But that's when I remembered. I can also read ancient Greek. So I pulled out a copy of the original letter to the Hebrews, of which we do not know the author, and began reading. Kai uk estin ktisis aphanes enopion autu pantade gymna kai tetrachelis mena tois ophthalmois autu pros hon hemin hologos. When I read this and still didn't understand, I knew I was going to spend my weekend studying more Greek. The very last words, pros hon hemin hologos, made as much sense as in the other two versions, but the hint was in the same verse. But where are my manners? How can we start at the end of the verse? Let's take a couple steps back. Word for word, the beginning translates to, "And not is a creation unseen before him." As a small note, the word ktisis is typically used to mean foundation or base, like that of a structure. I find it extremely interesting that this word is used to refer to living creations of God in this verse, perhaps as the foundation of his plan. Leave a thought on that in the comments. Moving on, this next section translates to, "But all are naked and laid bare to the eyes of him, pros hon hemin hologos." Ignoring that last part, this aligns with the Latin exactly, down to the word order and choice. At last, we come to the end of the verse in its original language. There's nowhere left to run. I read and reread this phrase, pros hon hemin hologos, until I heard it in dreams, accents and all. There was no epiphany, but a slow development towards my final thoughts. Now take my translation with a pound of salt, but this is what I believe the verse says. "And not one creation is unseen before him, but all are naked and exposed to the eyes of him to whom we must answer." As soon as I decided on this translation, I double-checked it against the English Standard Version, which renders Hebrews 4:13 as, "And no creature is hidden from his sight, but all are naked and exposed to the eyes of him to whom we must give account." Now I know I could have just read this at the beginning and avoided all that translating and studying and whatever, but that would have been cheating. And honestly, I'm quite surprised with how accurate my final translation was. I personally think I deserve a subscription for that one. Speaking of subscribing, we're nearly done here. For completeness, we'll take one last look at the Latin, which decided on the word sermo. Now, as mentioned before, I took this to mean sermon, as it is where the English word for sermon comes from. However, in Latin, it's actually used to refer more often to short speeches, conversations, and discussions. A translation then would read, "And no creature is invisible in his sight, but all are naked and opened unto the eyes of him to whom we must talk." The Vulgate has a reasonable translation from the Greek, though it is certainly unique in its implication, that we will have a simple chat with God, as opposed to a sort of tribune where we answer for our every transgression. So what's our takeaway for today? There is, in fact, lost knowledge in older Bibles. That being said, I'd like to add an important catch. Not all new translations are bad. As we saw, the English Standard Version renders the verse very faithfully to the Greek, and in a way that is far easier to understand than the King James Version. So don't put all your faith in older Bibles, but don't have no faith in them either. And with that, I think we're finished for this week. Thank you all for watching, and as always, your support is what keeps the channel running. If you enjoy this content, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the video. Valete videntes fideles, et iterum vos videbo.